It seems like the town of Hubbard is against the Kurliches, and everybody's in on it now.
Why wouldn't you be against them?
This all started in 2007 over a simple real estate deal, correct?
Right. It was the property next door here.
Meet Rick and Cindy Kurlich, longtime Hubbard residents. They say all they wanted was to buy the property next door. The only problem? It wasn't for sale. These folks, John and Marlene Clementi, had inherited half the house. The other half was tied up in court. But Rick Kurlich tried to buy it anyway, even though it had been in the Clementi family for generations.
I says, well, you're not getting my land. And I said, that's not right. It's my family since 1922. How could you do that?
The Clement family called me up and they told me to take my bid off the table. And if I didn't take my bid off the table, we'd be bitter enemies for life.
Rick never got the house, but he says he's still paying for what he did. As the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and as the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and as the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and suddenly Rick and Cindy say it seemed like every single one of them was driving by honking the horn. And it wasn't to say hello.
The Clement family conspired together to organize a horn-blowing campaign against us. That's really what this is all about.
Ask not for whom the horn blows. It blows for Rick and Cindy Kurlich.
In the beginning, it was 100 times a day.
100 times a day.
100.
So they began planning their payback. Their house now bristles with expensive surveillance cameras. As we were looking them over, just watch what happened.
The last camera is down here on the tree.
Okay. Oh, somebody just honked their horn. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's never
Was that
ending.
A friendly honk?
Probably not.
Okay.
Rick says his ear is now finely attuned.
You can tell an import horn from a domestic horn.
Who are these horn blowers? Not just people in the town, but people who work for the town. Firefighters, including some from the department John Clementi ran, and police. Here's one of Hubbard Township's finest, not serving, not protecting, just honking. It's enough to wake the dead. This hearse caught 10 times. And would you look at this? The horn on the bus goes. An education for Hubbard's next generation of horn blowers. Rick and Cindy renamed their dining room the evidence room.
Wow.
There's more in the basement.
There's hundreds and hundreds of photographs and discs and stuff here.
You're like a detective. So when did people start blowing the horns? Were you recruiting people, telling them to get this guy out of town?
That's what he tells everybody.
John says
everybody's in on it now.
Why wouldn't you be against them?
By studying human beings, you can really do well within the intelligence industry and within the security industry, because it is all about learning how to deal with and talk to and communicate with, and ultimately, from our perspective, secure human beings. And so it was through friends and family that I learned about the opportunity, and I started off like everybody else as a low-level security guard, minimum wage. I worked my way up through the company over time, and eventually was assigned to executive protection and threat assessment, risk management. And just to tell you a little bit about that, what my official duties was to secure personnel, data, and property of VIPs that our company is hired to protect. So there's a whole lot of training that goes into that, and I became a security specialist for SIS, specializing in executive protection, also risk and threat assessment to our clients. Our clients are the companies or the individuals that we contract out with and provide services for. And it was in that context that I became aware of what I describe as a social engineering program and a research and development program that was being carried out by SIS and our clients in Seattle, the Amazon Corporation. And it was through moving up within the SIS hierarchy and working with more and more people as I was assigned to more and more assignments, I became aware of the existence of this program. And then little by little over time, I became aware of the extent of it. And it wasn't long before I realized how horribly out of control it was, how downright evil it was. Once I began to realize that SIS was experimenting on its own employees, my fellow security specialists, I was outraged. I later learned that my company was involved in a larger social engineering program that encompassed the entire city of Seattle. That aspect of the program was experimenting on the homeless population of Seattle, Washington, who were housed in DESC, Downtown Emergency Services Center facilities. And I later learned that they were indeed experimenting with, when I say experimenting, voice-to-skull, hive mind, behavior modification technology that is frequency-based and directed at a targeted individual to basically control their entire person. And it was by moving up even more that I realized that this experimentation was going on against the general population of Seattle. And then just the average man and woman on the street, upper class, upper class, and even the flat-out rich were having this technology used on them without their knowledge. As more and more information and details of the program became were made known to me, I became more and more outraged by it. And I spent a long time, because I had many friends within the security company. A lot of these people are great people. They're very good people. Not everybody involved in SIS is directly involved in experimenting on people. They're not all directly involved in gang stalking. I never was. I never partook in that. But I did partake in training that deals with tactics and protocols that are used normally for surveillance and counter-surveillance. But within that is all of the information and the know-how that you need to be able to gang stalk, and that is in fact what they are doing. And so over time I became outraged, and I tried to play my cards right, wait for the right moment. And when I really just couldn't tolerate it anymore, when I found out just how out of control it was, I decided to object to my superiors in person. But within SIS specifically, what happens is they are experimenting on their own employees. So it's a long story. I'll try to get through it quick. But basically, people are selected from all over the country. We're talking other cities all over America. They are selected for many different reasons. Often it is because they are isolated. They don't have a lot of money, friends, or family. And they also tend to be people that are highly, highly intelligent. The aspects of this technology that they're interested in improving upon have to do with cognitive processes, processing information, and as a result, they want highly intelligent people to be targets of this program. They also tend to target people who are into what I would call alternative research, commonly called maybe conspiracy theories, people that disagree with the government, people that are into researching things like 9/11. Also, they are interested in people that are interested in technology. I have found a high percentage of targeted individuals to be people who either are interested in or have information on highly advanced technologies, usually having to do with directed energy weapons and frequency weapons, the exact kind of weapons that we're talking about here that are used in voice-to-skull and behavior modification, the works. There's many other aspects to the technology. But once these people are selected, they will have the entire gang stalking / voice-to-skull program run against them. This is detailed in my article. But they will be organized stalk. They will have career sabotage programs run against them to ruin their job. They will have character assassinations campaigns run against them in their neighborhood. They'll be isolated from family and friends as those individuals are turned against them. And they will be isolated slowly and slowly over time using the technology itself, as many of the people freak out, understandably, when they at first don't know what it is. Oftentimes, they end up going to psychiatrists, and false diagnoses of schizophrenia, manic depression, delusional, paranoid, are rendered against this individual. And it turns out that that's a loophole in the law that they are using to take away people's constitutional rights, as once you are deemed mentally unfit to care for yourself, i.e. you're depressed, delusional, paranoid, etc., they use that, the state or the federal government uses that as an excuse to come in and say that they have to care for you.
We will never negotiate. We will no longer tolerate, and we will no longer be afraid. It's your turn to be afraid.